You know a movie's in trouble when the lead actress has to film herself sitting in a theater so empty, you'd think they were stress testing the fire alarms. That's exactly what happened with Rachel Zegler and Disney's Snow White remake. What was supposed to be a billion-dollar modern fairy tale turned into one of the most brutal meltdowns in Hollywood history. And Rachel didn't just star in the flop, she practically lit the match that burned it down. Because this wasn't just a box office failure, it was a full-blown PR disaster. A meltdown so public, so messy, that it's now being used as the blueprint for how not to run a movie campaign. From feuding with her co-star, to insulting the original film, to alienating half of the country with political rants, Rachel managed to turn Disney's golden crown jewel into a $370 million embarrassment. So how did Disney's biggest fairy tale become a real-life nightmare? Let's break it down. First, let's start with the infamous empty theater moment. Rachel Zegler showed up to see her own movie, cameras rolling, expecting to create a cute viral moment. Instead, what the internet saw was a celebrity desperately trying to spin her flop into a meme. She sat in a near-empty auditorium with friends, trying to laugh it off, but the damage was done. Social media roasted her for days. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, every platform had a field day. What was supposed to be a red carpet celebration looked more like the funeral of a career happening live in front of everyone. But the empty theaters weren't just a coincidence. Disney had poured nearly $370 million into this movie between production and marketing. And what they got back on opening weekend was just $43 million. That's not just underperforming, that's catastrophic. For context, even Dumbo, a movie about a flying elephant made almost a century ago, managed to do better. And Snow White, it didn't just flop, it fell off a cliff. By its second weekend, the numbers dropped by 66%, pulling in only $14 million. Think about that. The biggest fairy tale in Disney history, a brand every family on Earth recognizes, got smoked by random mid-budget action flicks with a fraction of the promotion. One independent film even nearly passed it with half the number of screens. That's not just embarrassing, that's unprecedented. As of late March 2025, Snow White has limped its way to a global box office of about $143 million. Which, when you factor in how much it cost to make, means Disney is staring at a loss of over $100 million. For a studio that once turned the Lion King remake into a billion-dollar juggernaut, this was a disaster of epic proportions. But here's the thing, this flop wasn't just about the numbers, it was about the noise. Rachel Zegler didn't just star in Snow White, she torpedoed it with her own words before it even hit theaters. Let's rewind. When Disney cast Rachel as the lead, she immediately went viral, but for the wrong reasons. Instead of hyping up the movie or honoring the original, she trashed it. She called the 1937 version weird, accused the prince of being a stalker, and said the love story was irrelevant.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
In her words, Snow White wasn't going to dream about true love anymore. She was going to dream about power. Now sure, the original is old, it's dated, but when you're starring in a remake of a classic, maybe don't insult the very thing that made you famous before people even buy tickets. Fans were already skeptical, and her comments lit a firestorm. The internet saw it as arrogance. Instead of embracing Disney's legacy, Rachel positioned herself as the hero who had to fix Snow White. And audiences weren't buying it. Then came the political drama. Rachel openly told certain political groups not to see the movie. Imagine that. You're the face of a family-friendly fairy tale, and you tell half the country, we don't want your money. That's career suicide. Disney is supposed to be the most universal brand in the world, and here was their lead actress dividing audiences before the film even dropped. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, Rachel's relationship with her co-star Gal Gadot started making headlines. The two reportedly clashed behind the scenes, with tension so bad that Disney allegedly had to increase Gal's security at events. Rachel added fuel to the fire by shading Gal online, calling her a pageant queen in interviews and conveniently skipping her in sentimental Instagram posts. Fans speculated it was deliberate shade, and given the context, it looked bad. The worst moment came when Rachel celebrated the trailer hitting 120 million views, while in the same breath posting "Free Palestine," a move that sparked outrage since Gal Gadot is from Israel. Whether intentional or not, the timing was a PR nightmare, and it only deepened the rift between them. Imagine being Disney's PR team at that moment. It was chaos. At this point, Disney panicked. They reportedly brought in a professional social media handler just to take control of Rachel's accounts. Think about that. A studio actually had to hire someone to babysit their star's Instagram posts, but by then, it was too late. Rachel had gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Instead of trending for being Disney's next princess, she was trending for being Hollywood's next problem. It got so bad that producers flew out for private meetings just to try and put out the fires. Even Steven Spielberg supposedly raised an eyebrow at how sloppy the rollout had become. Eventually, Rachel posted an apology, but it was stiff and robotic. Fans compared it to something Mickey Mouse's lawyers wrote for her, not a genuine statement. And unsurprisingly, nobody bought it. The fallout was immediate. Hollywood began ghosting her. She was reportedly in talks for Toy Story 5, scrapped. She was linked to a potential Pirates of the Caribbean reboot, gone. A Blumhouse horror trilogy, dead in the water. Her career, which was supposed to be skyrocketing, suddenly flatlined. Studios weren't seeing a rising star anymore. They were seeing drama, controversy, and risk. And here's the tragic irony. Rachel tried to play it off as if Snow White was life-changing and emotional. But the only emotion anyone felt was second-hand embarrassment. Empty screenings, awkward silence from her co-stars, endless damage control. It all added up to one of the ugliest meltdowns Hollywood has seen in years. Now, Snow White is remembered not as a magical fairy tale, but as the poster child for how not to modernize a classic. And Rachel Zegler, she went from Disney's Golden Girl to a walking cautionary tale. Because when you mix ego, politics, and a $370 million budget, don't be surprised when the whole thing collapses like a house of cards. Rachel didn't just fumble the bag, she nuked it. She didn't just flop at the box office, she burned bridges across Hollywood. And the scariest part? She did it all in record time. 1 year ago, she was being marketed as the next big star. Now, she's a meme. That's the speed of Hollywood. One day you're the future of the industry, the next you're trending for all the wrong reasons. So, what do you think? Is Snow White as bad as the numbers say, or did Rachel Zegler's behavior make it look worse than it actually is? Drop your thoughts below, and if you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a breakdown like this one. Because in Hollywood, careers don't just rise, they crash, and Rachel Zegler's might be the fastest fall we've ever seen.